So I was wondering when we would get a Carlos King and Kelly Potter interview. And I got to tell y'all, honestly, she did not disappoint. I have been saying this all season. I like Kelly for the show. I really do. What I think about Kelly is that you have someone who is completely unafraid to say exactly what she feels, what she thinks. It doesn't matter who it is against. In this season, I feel like Kelly says what's on her mind. And you need somebody like this on this show who is unafraid to go against the grain, right? And she absolutely makes zero apologies for it. And I feel like I've always felt like the friendship with her and Shamea was real, but I would also have to say that the friendship between her and K Michelle seems to be real as well. And I'm going to tell you why. But what I want to say is this: Kelly did everything in the interview that I wish that Shamea would start doing. Okay. And that is refusing to answer questions about things that you don't want to talk about. Like, steer the conversation in the direction that you want it to go. And Kelly exhibited that. And I'll tell you how as we dive deeper into this. But if you saw it, you know what I'm talking about. Sky Squad, we are back in the building. Make sure you guys hit the like button on this channel, this video right here, and make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Shout out to Carlos King for giving us some content because it's been a little dry, okay? It's been a little bit dry. But nonetheless, let's talk about what came out of this Kelly interview with Carlos, because I think that that is super important. Now, there wasn't a lot of extra tea that was spelt, like, she didn't spill a lot of tea, right? But she did talk a lot about, the girl has confidence. She goes on to talk about how she was living the lifestyle before she came on the show. The show is happening to catch her at a down point in her life. She's absolutely fine with showcasing it. She does have some parameters about certain aspects of her finances that she just does not want to put out there. But I'm assuming that's also because some of these are legal matters as well. So I could totally understand why she would not want to divulge some of those details. But with regards to the things that I absolutely know that you will want to know about, she professes that she's been doing it big on this show. Like, she's one of the first housewives to shut down Phipps Plaza. Okay. I guess for the show. Carlos had to go back into his memory banks and recall that Marlo did something very similar back in season 4. Okay. And she concedes that, well, Marlo's that type of girl. Her and Marlo are actually friends. She does speak to Marlo. She also speaks to Kenya Moore, and she wishes that Kenya Moore were back on the show as well. Not sure how Kenya Moore and Marlo would do back on the show again. I think I've seen that merry-go-round enough times to not want to see it again. And I think we all can agree with that. Okay. Could I see Marlo with this group of girls? I actually could, to be very honest with you. And I think that Marlo would provide for an interesting bit of balance that I feel like we are kind of missing in this period of time. And I would be interested to see what her perspectives would be. But Marlo, at that point in time when she was brought on as a full-time housewife, I almost felt like she was just did a little bit too much. And I don't know if maybe somebody behind the scenes revved up her engine a little bit too much, but I don't know what it was. But I appreciate Marlo and her fashion sense. I really, really do. And Kelly talks about how she was, no, this is her. She was saying how she is the first to have a stylist on retainer. Okay. And that was Paris Chia. So for me, um, oh, I don't know what that relationship was in terms of, whether or not how deep that went into what she says, but she says that she made it possible, okay, for some of these other girls to now have a stylist in this way. Okay. And I'm just going to leave it there. What I will say is this: Paris has been on the scene for a very, very long time, styling the people. Okay. So I, I don't know what their relationship, I don't know why it ended. All I can say is that we also knew of Paris before we also knew of Kelli. So I'm just going to leave it there. And that's not to diss Kelli in any way, shape, or form. It's just to say that Paris's work also precedes her time on the show. Now, regardless of what happened between the two of them, once they got on the show, I don't know what happened with that downfall, but she doesn't really try to speak negatively about Paris, but we'll just leave it at that. We do know that Portia is now working with Paris, and I believe maybe Cynthia has done some work. She also believes that some of the girls, a good majority of the girls, are essentially bowing down to Portia. Okay. And she refuses to acknowledge Portia as her leader. Whereas Carlos feels like, I feel in the same way, that Portia is the marquee name for this particular iteration of the franchise. And for Kelli, she's like, I mean, if you see it that way or whatever. Now, here's what I do like about Kelli in this regard. Now, it may be a little bit of delusion, but I like it. I like the fact that she refuses to acknowledge anybody as the lead other than herself, right? Because again, like I said, the confidence is on 10 and I can't be mad at it. I aspire to this level of like almost unbotheredness about the things that life has thrown at this woman's way, and she is taking a licking and she just keeps on ticking. A little stopwatch, if you will. I mean, to me, it's refreshing to see, even though she is in this valley, she is still maintaining an air of confidence. And she says, for which, people assume that while she did get $70,000 worth of dental work from Jarvis, okay, courtesy of Jarvis, I should say. Jarvis does appear in the video. We don't see his face, but we see him in the background. Carlos does acknowledge what Phaedra acknowledged, that he is apparently a very good looking gentleman. So it's really nice to know that she also, that it's not AI. Okay. We talked about how the whole Jarvis, Tony Stark, Iron Man thing, and how Jarvis was actually the name of Tony Stark's AI. This is all deep Avengers lore and Marvel Comics lore. So for those of you guys who are not familiar, I totally understand. Now, let's move away from that for just a second and let's get into some other aspects. She says that Shamea did not tell her anything about the whole situation with Portia's mom. Shamea has not fed her any information about Portia in general, and that the things that she knows about Portia are from the streets of Atlanta themselves. Okay? So that is what she says, and she's sticking by it. She is adamant about that. Now, where it gets really, really interesting is she also says that she did not know that Shamea was going to blow up at that dinner in Scotland. But she does point out some things that we allegedly did not see. That Portia had allegedly been poking at her, and there were things that were happening to poke at Shamea directly that the camera does not show. Now, we all know that there are aspects to the show that we can't see because it's only 42 minutes per episode. So she doesn't give examples for this. So we have to say alleged, because without an example, no receipt, we don't know. But what she does do that I thought was really, really key, interesting, diva-like, but also very, very much what I would want Shamea to do the next time she's asked about this whole situation with Portia. I'm not talking about it. When Carlos asked about the rift between K. Michelle and Shamea and the two of them unfollowing each other on social media, she says, I'm not talking about it. She looks away and she is adamant that she is not speaking on that matter. Because here's the thing. If she had answered that question, now Carlos is doing his job right there, but if she answers that question, I'm sure she knows by now how sensitive K. Michelle is. I'm sure that whatever she said it wouldn't have been bad. But I also know, and I think we all can see that K Michelle is just sensitive. And listen, sometimes you just got to know your friends. And this is not a knock at K Michelle. This is just to say that I know certain things. I have certain friends that are super sensitive about certain things. So I just kind of know how to deal with them on that level. And I'm sure you have certain friends who are sensitive about certain things and you know how to deal with them on that level. So I think that if she had said something that was more in favor of Shamea, then she would have probably jeopardized or risked the wrath of K Michelle, which I'm pretty certain that that Kelli can handle. But I just don't think she wanted to rock that boat. And I'm sure she wants to protect the sanctity of, hey, I'm not going to speak to you about you, and I'm not going to speak to her about you, right? I'm sure it's kind of a situation like that she's probably telling both of those ladies. So I'm glad that she stuck to her guns with that. And even when pressed further about it, she's kind of like, listen, when Carlos asked if she felt like she had to choose sides, the girl is like, I'm not talking about it. Ixnay, I'm not talking about it. I have to respect that right there because I just feel like that's how you do it. That's really how you do it. She does go on to talk about how she feels like it was pretty disgusting of Angela to bring up the whole situation with George and Ashley and try to make it seem like there was something more that had happened. She is shocked that Angela would go there, but she also is, I mean, I don't know. She kind of feels like, I think she kind of feels like Angela is kind of trying to get on Portia's good side because the same question that we've been asking all season, how is it that Angela has forgiven Portia for what she said about the sleeping with Charles thing, and but she can't seem to forgive Shamea for whatever she did that probably, I don't think that the two measure up based on my estimation, unless there's something that Angela is not telling us. I just don't get it. And I don't think it plays off that well on camera either, because I don't think that a good majority of the audience gets it either. I think that if you are someone who is like taking sides in this situation, you would probably feel like, well, Angela just forgave her because she was just joking. Because do I think that Portia would want to sleep with Charles? I don't. I don't even think she would. I don't even think it was ever a thought. I think it was just something to like poke at her in the moment because she was generally annoyed with Angela at that point in the season, as most of the ladies had been, because remember, it was Angela who had invited Drew to Portia's birthday when they went to, I think it was Nashville last season. So when Portia was upset, I mean, listen, the temperature in the room changed. I mean, so I don't know who's the real mood changer here. It might be Portia. I don't know. But anyway, so there is that. She talks a bit about her life with her ex and what she went through with the divorce and all of that, and just being transparent on camera. She kind of questions whether or not there are some elements of Cynthia that, also kind of defer down to Portia as well, because they work, her and Drew work for the go naked. Well, I call them the go nakeds just because it's fun. Honestly, like I don't really have a thing about it, but saying go nakeds is just kind of like, it sounds like a group name, right? Anyway, the go nakeds. Like one of those groups from the 60s, like the Supremes. Anyway, so she does not fault K Michelle nor Pinky for sticking up more for Shamea, because she feels like they were also just kind of too new and just being, just wanting to be neutral in the situation. She does applaud them for staying afterwards at the club when Shamea sang. She does call Angela a liar because she says that Angela might have stayed, for a portion of Shamea's song, but she does assert that most of those ladies skedaddled right after Shamea sang. So whether or not that was due to Shamea's presence or whether or not it was just because they were ready to go remains to be seen. But for Kelli, she feels like she is appreciative of K Michelle and Pinky for actually staying the rest of the entire time while the rest of the girls scattered like roaches. Okay. I think I've given you pretty much everything that I think you would really, really want to get out of this. Let me know if you think that I missed anything. Obviously, this is a summation and you should really watch the interview for yourself. But I'm just kind of giving you my thoughts and what I appreciated from this interview. And I think that for me, I enjoy what Kelli brings. I might not, of course, always like what she wears, or, I mean, that'd be mostly my issue with Kelli. And of course, we did question the $70,000 teeth thing, but listen, if the man wants to get her some $70,000 teeth, then let him, right? But she's still going to be fabulous and go sailing out on yachts because she says that's always been her lifestyle. I guess, broke or not. Listen, let me tell y'all something. I will say this, I've had times in my life where I have struggled, but God made a way for me to somehow get on a boat, a yacht, a plane, do a TV show or something. It's life is funny like that. So if you leave this video with nothing, let it be this. Your circumstances do not have to define whether or not you can live fabulously or not. Okay? With that being said, thank you, Kelli. Thank you, Carlos King, for giving us something to do on this Good Tuesday. I will catch you guys in the next video.